One thing you kind of touched on there a little bit earlier, and I figured I should share this with you because I'm a General Motors automotive technician. And I have all my hybrid certifications and electric vehicle certifications, and I can't afford the vehicles that come into the dealership that pre-delivery inspect and all this stuff. I mean, the Hummer EV is breathtaking. I mean, it is one of the most exhilarating vehicles I've ever driven in my entire life. To drive a 10,000-pound SUV that can go 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds is mind-boggling. It is amazing. But the price tag is $120,000 to $130,000. Yeah, and an Escalade V, which comes into my shop every here and there, $150,000. A brand new, GMC Sierra Denali, you're looking about $80,000 to $90,000. Um, this stuff's really not that affordable here in America. And then even like some of the Teslas start off at about $50,000 a year, which is a little bit more reasonable. But my understanding is I believe you know him as well, but Jason Smith, who lives over in China. We talked about like gasoline vehicles and EVs in China versus the US. He's like, you could buy like a brand new Mercedes over in China for like a couple $1,000s. Whereas here, like you're looking six figures easy for any Mercedes off the lot. So I know that's a little bit, but I kind of curious your thoughts on the EV market here in the
Well,
US versus China.
yeah. So I'm not bullish on the EV market in US because U.S. power grid doesn't cannot support the
Right.
EV transition.
Correct.
Like if you look at the U.S. power generation for the last 20 years, it's flat.
Mm.
It's flat. The Chinese power generation is going up like this. So China builds for growth. They build for future. And right now because the U.S. power grids has all been privatized, all these um, utility companies they're trying to squeeze most profit out of the existing infrastructure rather than trying to build redundancy, trying to build for growth. This is why during a natural disaster like what happened in Texas, people are freezing in the winter because
Yeah.
they don't have redundancy, they don't have backup power, and also there's a cost issue. China can the BYD, their entry level electric car, the BYD Seagulls goes from between $9,000 to $13,000. I mean, how
Wow.
can you compete? Yeah, how can you compete with that? I mean, it's not a piece of shit. It's for that price. It offers amazing value. Like I would have buy
Yeah.
that if they bring it over to Indonesia. And this is why Elon Musk says, okay, without tariffs, the U.S. car makers will not survive. But the problem is, you need some kind of a competition because
Mhm.
otherwise they'll keep on making those very expensive cars, which is completely unaffordable. BYD would probably love to open factory in United States to invest in U.S. factories, but again, over the kind of U.S. policy toward China would probably make them think twice about
Right.
that decision because what if another presidents come in and toss out that policy? BYD is already in U.S. by the way, but they make electric buses for like California and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Because that's less controversial than making like passenger cars because that's where that's going to lead into the launch of the big three of Detroit. So they would not allow
Yeah.
that. It's tough. It's tough. The thing about electric car, though, what people don't realize is it allows you to integrate with a lot of technology. You can pack a lot of technology into electric cars.
Right.
You don't have to you don't have to do that kind of energy transfer from like combustion engine into power your electricity and when everything is already electric, it's a lot more smoother. This is why you see a lot of features in the Chinese electric cars. They have like big screen. Like it's very nice, very very
We just
snazzy, and
started
of
getting
course,
those a couple years ago. Like a lot of the US vehicles, like a lot of the General Motors vehicles now. I want to say it was probably 2020, maybe 2021, where we started getting a lot of the screens in the vehicles, like all over, like across the dash and everything like that. And then like now I think it's the 2024 or 2025 Acadias. It almost looks like an iPad in the center. And that's like
yeah.
relatively new. Like not every manufacturer has that. And then obviously all the EVs have it, but once again, we're talking ridiculous money for those.
Yeah, they're learning, like even the big Detroit big three, because they're involved in China. They have factories in China.
Right.
GM China makes more money. Well, used to before the EV transition. GM China make more money in China than they make in United States, because Chinese car market is much bigger than the US car market. And we just had there was an interview with a Ford CEO where he said, "Oh man, I love the Xiaomi SU7." He had one imported over to United States for his personal use. He's like, I drove it for 6 months. It's great. I don't want to give it up. But
I don't like talking about the competition so much, but I drive the Xiaomi. We flew one from Shanghai to Chicago, and I've been driving it for 6 months now, and I don't want to give it up.
He was also mind blown by kind of the gap between the Chinese EV industry and what's happening in the United States. So they are observing what's happening, and they're kind of slowly by osmosis to bring in some of the stuff over here. But I still think, United States, the thing is, it needs an overhaul. It needs infrastructure upgrades. You can't depend on Elon Musk to build all the charging stations. You need to build out electric generations. For some reason, there's still a lot of anti-nuclear power in US for some reason. So like a lot of the old nuclear power plant actually getting decommissioned. And then what? I mean, then there's of course opposition to more coal plants. And China is making the switch to green energy in a big way. They build out more solar and wind power than anybody. But people will say, oh, but China is also building new coal plants on unprecedented level. That's because solar and wind, they're unstable source of power. And during downtime, you need to build backup power using coal. But China is at least doing that. They're already building out their capacity. US is not preparing for that, and our elite is not farsighted. I mean, they're very farsighted on how to line in their own pocket, but they're not really farsighted on how to develop the country. I don't think they're even interested in developing the United States at this point. They're just trying to collect more rent.